Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am super excited about our guest today. She has this amazing program that's the one that I joined, I think, was Simplify to Scale and the Lean Out method. And basically, it's to help you scale your business. And she's just amazing at what she does. And you'll think she's as amazing as I do. When we're done with this, I'm going to read her bio and bring her on. Okay, so Crista Grasso is a scaling strategist and operations alchemist and CEO and founder of the Lean Out Method and Strategic Ops Institute. She partners with visionary CEOs and their teams to navigate through the messy middle of 500K to 5 million and scale in a way that allows them to live a rich, fulfilled life while leading a high impact and high profit business. Through private advisory and her signature Simplify to Scale mentorship experience, she helps businesses remove unnecessary complexity, up-level their business operations, and build out their lean dream team, including a right-hand person they can trust, so the day-to-day is no longer dependent on the CEO. And how freaking nice is that? Okay, so without further ado, let's meet Krista.
Hey, Iris. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm so excited for our chat.
I know, me too. It's like I haven't seen you in so long. We saw each other 2 hours ago. I love working with you, and I love how you do all of the things. It's like we'll have a conversation and then we're done, and she's like, here's everything we talked about. I'm like, everything is laid out. And, you know, I knew I had a team, but I didn't realize I had a team. And I remember the first time that you were like, here's your team. I was like, holy shit, you know, not realizing the team and really how far I've come as an entrepreneur. It's crazy. So first off, tell us about Krista. Tell us about you, your journey, like all the things, because you're just like amazing.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, I love being alongside you on this journey, because when we first met, seeing just simply the growth that you've experienced in that period of time has been absolutely tremendous. And seeing where you're at with your team and where you're going with things, also just so incredible. And for me, this is like what fuels me. This is my passion. There is nothing I love more than partnering with amazing, incredible rock star business owners who I would consider best friends anyway, and helping them take the beautiful, big, bold vision that they have and the dreams and the ambition and the impact that they want to make, and finding a way to get there where it's really simple, it's really sustainable, so they're not killing themselves and hustling 24/7 and burning themselves out or burning their team out along the way. And ultimately, so they can live what I call a rich, fulfilled life, which is where you actually like what you do. You like the people that you spend your time with, and you are constantly fueled by what you're doing instead of drained by what you're doing, which I think becomes the case for so many of us when we start businesses, right? Most people I work with tend to start off pretty passion fueled, and then the early years of business can get a little draining. You're wearing all the hats, you're doing all the things. You finally realize, okay, I need a team. What is this operations thing people keep talking about? I guess I need something called systems, and people don't entirely know what it means, and they end up making a lot of hiring mistakes. They end up investing a lot of time and money and creating these detailed SOPs that nobody uses and that they didn't need. And a lot of mistakes get made, and it can be really disenfranchising. It's like that thing that you once were so passionate about, you're all of a sudden feeling really trapped by, and you feel really drained and like, what is this business that I created? Do I even want to keep doing this anymore? I have so many conversations with people who joke with me, but I think they're only half joking. Like, sometimes I wonder if I should just get a job. And it's like, no, you should not get a job. You are brilliant and you are amazing. And this is such a solvable, fixable problem. Let's do it.
Yeah. And it's amazing because I remember the very first time we spoke, I was talking about doing a VIP day. And I said, well, I'm this much an hour. And you were like, no, you're not. It's this much a day for the VIP thing. And I was like, what? Like, I just couldn't even like think of that because I never like looked at things like that. And you have really helped me like look at things differently. So like, contracts now, I don't look at a per month thing. I look at an annual, the client may pay me per month, but for me, it's an annual contract, right? It's like I'm looking at it and this is how much it's going to yield for the year. And it makes things so much different and better because it's less stressful. It's like, yes, I'm bringing in this much at the end of the month, but by the time the year is over, this client is going to be this much money. And it just changes the outlook on everything. And it changes how you look on, paying people. Like I have, a client now who, we talked about this earlier. She's paying me for half of the year up front. She did that last year also. So now where the challenge comes in is realizing that she paid me for half. So I have to kind of, not spend it and stuff. I have to like put that in a little, bucket. My wife will love this because she calls everything a bucket. Like this is a bucket of water. It's not a cup. She's like, throw it in the bucket. But, I know that money goes into a certain bucket so that next year I have where to pull it from. And it's just, I just look at things on a much larger scale than I did before. And that's because of working with you.
I love it. Well, there's a few different things about what you said that I think are so important. There's the scalability factor, right? Not only does it make your business more scalable when you make those shifts, but it honestly simplifies things and make things so much easier for your clients as well. And so I think sometimes the hardest transition for people who are in more of a service provider type model is moving from charging either by the hour or charging by the project to looking at things in a different way and doing more value-based pricing. And that can be a really hard transition for people, especially if they've built up a multi-six-figure business. They've been in business a long time. Their clients are used to them working in a particular way. But once you get past the initial unease of people not, responding well to anything different, no matter what you're doing, it ends up being something that people really appreciate much more from a client perspective. It tends to lead to higher conversions, and it just makes it so much easier and more scalable within your business. But the other thing you said that's so interesting, and I work with so many clients on this, is cash flow is like seriously a challenge for so many business owners, and it doesn't get easier. A lot of times people are like, well, when I hit 250, it'll get easier. When I hit 500, when I hit seven figures, when I hit, 8 figures. Cash flow is always something that is so important to manage. And sometimes you desperately want people to pay in full. Because you're like, I've got to pay off this credit card, or I want to invest in this amazing program. It would be really great if I got somebody to pay in full. But other times you really want people on a monthly retainer because you want that consistent cash flow.
100%.
And knowing, what your strengths are. Like some of my clients cannot budget for like pay in fulls. And so we organize and orchestrate all of their programs to incentivize monthly pay because that fits the way that they work better. Other people are great with cash flow and they're like, no, I just want everybody to pay in full. And I think there's this pressure in the industry sometimes that you have to get everybody to pay in full. But I've actually helped my clients not have people pay in full sometimes because they struggled so much with the cash flow challenges. And it wasn't one of their superpowers to be able to balance that out.
Yeah. And it's hard. I mean, it's not easy. It's like, so she did it last year and it was like, okay, awesome. And then I also offer an incentive, right? Like if you pay the full year, like I had one client just pay the whole, 6 months, SEO and website. Actually, I had 2 clients do that. And I took, I think like 1,000 off or something like that. And $1,000 is a lot of money to take off of a project, right? And then, I did the same thing with her. And she liked it because she does half and then she pays monthly still, but it's not as much monthly, right? I still have monthly revenue coming in. So that helps as well. So I think that that's a win-win. So for me, it's like maybe not the whole thing down, but half down. So if all of my clients, if you're listening, want to pay half down, to me, that's great because it gives me the capital that I need to get certain things done. Plus, I know that next year I have that monthly coming in. So it for me, it works. How did I learn to manage it? Was not easy, because last year I was like, woohoo. And then it was like, oh shit, no, that I still have to pay these people every month. So, back up. And that's when I was able to, like open another account and make that the paying account. Like, this is where everybody that I have to pay next year, that's where this goes in this little, bucket. And then I'm okay, because then the other things that I have to do, I can do, but it ain't easy. That's for sure. And I had to hire a bookkeeper. So that was good, because I don't do books well.
Yeah, not my superpower either. I help people with their numbers all the time, but that is not where I would prefer to be spending my time day to day. So I will gladly have my bookkeeper do her magic.
So how did all of this start? Like, how did the Krista phenomenon start? Because I think you are a phenomenon. And I like the people that are on our calls are, they're badasses. I mean, we have Jen and, Stephanie, who I'd love to get on this podcast, but I'll talk to her about that. I think that, you work with a lot of badass people. And so how did that whole thing start?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I always, my entire life, knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never really wanted to work for someone else. I'm one of those people who I think part of what drew me to creating systems is that I think most systems are really stupid. And so I end up looking at it and I'm like, why are you doing it like that? That's so complicated. It could be way simpler. Let's do it like this. And so I always kind of knew that I wanted to do my own thing. I naturally see the world, I think, through a little bit of a different lens than most people, because I am equal parts right brain and left brain. I am just as creative as I am structured. And it is a really odd balance to see the world through that lens. People joke that I'm like a walking contradiction, because whereas most people fit into one of two boxes, I kind of straddle the line and can go back and forth in any, given moment between the two. But it just gives me kind of a unique vantage point for things. So knowing that I wanted to do my own thing, I was a fine art major. I wanted to have some kind of artistic business and brand. I wasn't entirely sure what it was going to be. But as I'm nearing graduation, I start to let my mom's voice get in my head and other people's voices get in my head that, if you're going to do something with business, you should probably know something about business. Otherwise, you're going to end up working in a coffee shop the rest of your life, like most artists. And you hear this often enough. And I'm like, all right, maybe I'll get a business degree. And so I switched majors, ended up getting a business degree, and I graduated. And I was like, okay, well, now what do I do with this thing? And so one of my morning customers at Starbucks, I was managing a Starbucks at the time, he had actually offered this incredible position to me. He pulled me aside one morning and said, why are you here? I think, there's so much more that you could be doing. And I actually have this opportunity if it's something that would interest you. And ironically, the company that he was trying to bring me into, I had interviewed at twice. And both times they were going to offer me a position, they canceled the rec for the job. Both times. And he ended up pulling me aside one morning and said, I'd love to have you do this. Have you heard of this company? And I was like, yes, I've been trying to get in there since I graduated. And he said, great, I'll have you come in. But the only way I could have you come in, because I need you to start tomorrow, is if you come in as a consultant. I was like, okay. I had no idea what consulting even was. No clue whatsoever. All I knew was I got a job. I was pretty happy. Wow. And so I took this job, and my plan had been, I was just going to work for a couple of years, pay off my college loans, figure out what I wanted to do for my creative business, and kind of get that off the ground and going. And the company that I got hired into, I ended up being brought into a role that was like a project management role. I'd never heard of that before. I'd managed a lot of things. I'd actually run businesses in the 90s. And this was the early 2000s. And so I came into this role and I found I actually really liked it. And then I ended up in a company that was lean. And I realized I really liked lean. Lean made a lot of sense to me too. And so this thing that I thought I was going to do for this short period of time to go off and do my creative thing ended up ironically being what I created my entire career around and am still doing today with lean and consulting and working with businesses. And a lot of what I was doing was I was helping businesses be more efficient, be more profitable, and scale, whether that was introducing new products to the market or selling more of the products that they already had. So how could we take a business and help them scale, and not just scale their revenue, but really ramp up their profit margins through both new business and increased efficiencies? And how could we make sure that they were making the impact that they wanted? And I've spent now, about 25-ish years doing this for some of the largest, most successful businesses in the world. And at the same time, off to the side, I have been also doing the same with small businesses. And I absolutely love the mix of both. It's kind of fun to transform these incredibly huge companies and to work with thousands of people and have such a big impact and ripple effect to all of their customers as well. And there is nothing quite like working one-on-one with a small business founder and helping them make such a big impact in their business that then ripples out to all their clients as well. So I do a little bit of both. And over the years, I did start my creative business. I started my jewelry business, which I still have today, 20 years later. You're holding up some of my jewelry.
Put it right on.
I love it. So, yeah, I mean, I did all of those things. And I actually right now am in the middle of launching my Strategic Ops Institute, which is my 8th business that I will have built, grown, and scaled over all of these past 30-something years.
Wow. It's amazing. I want to be you when I grow up. Actually, no, I just want to stick with this business. And it's so funny because what this has evolved into, right? I mean, one of the things that I really love about working with you is like you challenge me. I love when I'm challenged. Like that's why I've been with like my wife for 22 years, because other people that I dated, this is like a whole different rabbit hole, right? There wasn't a challenge. Like they didn't challenge me, and I would like kind of mow over them, which is terrible, but and she challenges me all the time. She also doesn't let me get away with shit. And that's what you do. So you're like my work wife. It's like you, right? It's like you challenge me. And then if there's like a shortcut or something, you're like, no, that's not how you do it. And I need that because it's really easy, to look for, I don't feel like doing it this way. What if I do it this way? And it's like, that's not going to get you results. So you stopgap that. And it's like, okay, no, that's not how we're going to do this. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize it, especially at the level that I'm at. It's like, right now I'm the face of the business. And at some point, 6-7 years or whatever, I'm going to want to sell it. So I can't be the face of the business all the time, right? So I have to scale. And the only way to scale is to put systems in place. And I hate systems. Let me tell you, like systems and all this other crap is not my thing. But it's like a necessary evil. So I know for me, it's like I go kicking and, like, I don't want to do this, but it's necessary, especially for this, next step that I'm taking. What I do find funny is the whole go high level thing, where we were talking about that. And you were like, I'm going to tell you not to do that now. And then it was like, I'm going to tell you to do that now. And I think it was like a 3-week period. And I was like, son of a bitch, because I canceled it and I restarted it again. And now I'm having Lizzie, who's one of my interns, like really learn it and put the SOPs in so that, we can, but it's like so funny to me just how it all works. And if you ever would have told me that I would even be in this position 3 years ago, I would have been like, you're high.
Well, it is interesting because I remember my signature program is called Simplify to Scale. And what I remember, I was having a conversation with a woman. She had probably broken into the low 6 figures. And she was like, I don't understand why it's simplify to scale. I'm not even thinking about scaling. I'm trying to grow. Why am I trying to simplify? I just want more of things. And like, she didn't get the idea. And I was like, she's going to get it someday. Because when you hit it, And until then, you're kind of like, that's not what I even care about. That's not what I'm even thinking about. And I remember she called me one day, probably about 1.5 years later. And she was like, okay, now I get it. and I desperately need your help. Oh my God, I'm trying to scale. I thought I was going to hit 7 figures. Now I think I'm going to hit 3 million this year. My business is exploding and everything is so chaotic and so messy. There is no way I can keep up and I can't do this. I need to simplify. And I was like, yep. And so it's like, you don't get it until you get it. And then once you get it, you're like, oh, that's why people talk about systems. That's why people talk about having the right team in place. That's why people talk about this stuff. It's like most businesses, I wish more than anything for any of you listening, if you are not there yet and you're like, yeah, that sounds nice. Someday that'll be a problem. My wish for you is that you don't wait for it to become a problem and that you proactively put these things in place, because you will actually get where you want to go a lot quicker and you will avoid a lot of the stress, a lot of the burnout, a lot of the lost sleep, lost money, lost everything that you experience along the way. But most people get so laser focused on the growth, marketing, sales, marketing, sales, marketing, sales. And those things are critical. They're important, but they can't be the only thing you focus on. You also have to have the solid operations to be able to support that. And if you're about to go into a period of growth, the worst thing you can do is wait and reactively try to fix your operations. You want to proactively put the foundation in place so that you can scale in a sustainable way and so that you're not impacting your client experience in the process, because you want the people who are coming in and onboarding to have such a great experience that A, they stay, but B, they tell people about you. So you're getting referral and advocacy in your business. If instead you got people in, but it was such a hot mess, or you and your team are so burnt out trying to like pull it all together and make the magic happen that all of a sudden people aren't having a good experience, that's when refund requests come up. That's when people are unhappy and you start getting negative reviews. It's definitely when referrals start to dip, and people don't usually realize oftentimes that they need it until that happens. So when I think about my mission, I want people to proactively recognize you cannot avoid building out the right team or putting the right systems in place if you actually want to scale your business. If you want a 7-figure business, if you want an 8-figure business, there's literally no way around it. I fully believe in alignment, and I believe there's simple and aligned ways to approach those things, but you do need them. It's kind of a non-negotiable. Otherwise, it's all dependent on you. You're the bottleneck, and you can only grow as far as you can kind of show up, and that's not what anybody wants.
I mean, no. And that's why I remember, when we first spoke, I was thinking, how in hell am I going to afford this? I'm not ready yet. And then I was talking, I think to Nate. Was it Nate? Who was I talking to? I can't remember who I was talking to. And I was like, it's time. And then I said, okay, let's talk. And that was it, because it's like, I see what's coming. It's like, I'm not there yet, but I want to stop the bleeding before it starts, because of what we talked about. I don't want to be in that position where all of a sudden there's all of this stuff going on and I can't handle it. And then some of the clients get slip between the cracks, because that's never okay with me. I run a relationship-based business, right? So everything for me is about relationships. And so I have to know that everybody is taken care of. And if my systems aren't in order, how the hell am I going to be able to help them properly? So, for all y'all, listening, it's super important. Like, don't wait. Like, I kind of sort of didn't wait. I think I'm like at that cusp where if I would have waited a few more months, it would probably have been too late at that point to not have been ahead of the curve. So, so there are people that are listening to this that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, right? So what advice would you give somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? Because it's like serious stuff.
Oh, it is. So sometimes ignorance is bliss. And if most of us knew what the journey was really going to be like, we might have been like, that job doesn't sound so bad after all. But that being said, I think those of us who are entrepreneurs by nature, we are just wired this way. We are meant to have our own business. And it does not matter how painful or how much we work or what we go through, we are going to find a way and we are going to make it happen. And so if that's you listening, there are things that you can do that will simplify your journey and that will make it so you do not have have to trade your personal life and everything else for the business. And I think the thing that I would say, that is most important, and that looking back, even on my own early journey in entrepreneurship, I wish I had done. Be really focused and don't be afraid to laser focus in on one thing for one person. A lot of times people think, and it's really hard to break this line of thinking, if I will do anything for anyone, then everyone's my customer and everyone could say yes. And therefore, I'm going to be the most successful. And I'll try that for a while and then I'll see what people want. And then I'll create the business around that. And that's a really slow, really work intensive way of doing it. If you can see a problem in the market that you recognize, or an opportunity. Sometimes it's opportunity. Like my jewelry technically doesn't solve a problem, but people do really, really love it. Right. And so sometimes it's a problem. Sometimes it's an opportunity. But what is that thing that exists in the market that you have confidence there are people who would invest in, that aligns with your passions, your strengths, your zone of genius, what you feel like you could do all day, every day, and either do better than anyone else, or you know that with the right experience and training, you can become that kind of master level at. That to me is what you want to do. So pick the thing and laser focus in on it. And from day one, the one thing I wish I did was track what is working and what isn't. Because the number one thing that leads to burnout for business owners is you tend to say yes to a lot of things in the beginning because you're not sure what's going to work. Yeah. And that is a perfectly fine strategy. But if you are not measuring to see what's working, you keep saying yes and you're too afraid to ever let anything go because you're not sure if that thing that you let go is the thing that's going to make it all come tumbling down. And so you naturally just create this environment where the only way for you to do anything is to work more. And it ends up being a really not great place to be. And people either burn out and close out their business, or eventually they usually hit some kind of phoenix moment where they're like, I can't do this anymore. I'm throwing it all out and starting over. Right. And you don't want any of those things. So just a measure, I don't care if it is a journal measure, if it is an actual metrics measure, whatever way works for you to start. You don't have to be fancy with it, but you do need to understand what is working and what isn't. So you can cut what isn't, and you could double down on or experiment with what is to try to get better and better results.
I love that. You know, I ask that question every show. And the different answers are to me, they're amazing. And, you know, they're really, you know, well thought out. And I think this one in particular really touches on, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to do whatever. I'll throw the spaghetti to the wall and see what sticks. And that is not the way. That's just not the way to do it, because sometimes it sticks to the wall and then all of a sudden it falls off. Right. I mean, I've seen that happen. I worked in catering in New York, and I remember the whole, how do you know if it's al dente? Throw it at the wall. And we would throw it at the wall, and sometimes, it would stick. And we had this like one spot in the kitchen. We had to clean it all the time, but it's the truth. It's like, if you do all these things and you don't keep track of what's working, how are you going to know what's working and what's not? Yeah. So I really love that a lot.
Well, I think too, a lot of the fear is, but I haven't done this yet. So how do I know what I want to do? How do I know? And so if I just do everything, I'll figure out what I like. But the reality is, you are going to reinvent, and you are going to rebrand, and you are going to reimagine your business so many times over. You are not going to get it right out of the gate. It just doesn't happen. Like before Lean Out Method was Lean Out Method, it was called Fashionably Lean. I did the same thing, but I worked with fashion and accessory brands because I have a jewelry business, which I've scaled to be something really successful. And a lot of people wanted to know what I did. So it started as Fashionably Lean. And then I realized, as much as I love that market, that is the market that is the most resistant to operations. And so therefore, I was going to change and work with more service-based businesses instead of product, rebranded to Lean Out Method. Before it was Fashionably Lean, it was called From Passion to Profit. I know that's very well known now, but I started that brand back in 2007. It wasn't so well known back then, right? And so I've rebranded and reinvented many times. My jewelry business, which has its 20th birthday, started off as Amber Tortoise. It's now Chris Cara. Before it was Chris Cara, it was Nearly Naked. I passed through this little period where it was Nearly Naked, and I realized nobody would look at that website from work because it would get flagged by all of the triggers.
100%.
And so nobody wanted to go to my website. And so I ended up rebranding. But you're not going to get it all right. And I think people want to get it so right from the beginning that they're afraid to commit to anything. Whatever you commit to is just a for now. And you're going to try it and you're going to learn from it for now. And you can change and rebrand and reinvent many times over. And you probably will throughout your journey.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, I have. I think I did like 2 or 3 times. There are people listening that are seasoned entrepreneurs. What's like an obstacle that you've gone through or you're going through that, they may be going through and they may need some guidance on?
So I think as an experienced entrepreneur, right, one of the most challenging things that we ever face, there's a couple different ones, but one of them is being able to truly get ourselves out of the day-to-day of the business. Like for real, get ourselves out of the day-to-day of the business where you can truly go away on vacation and your clients or your team aren't pinging you. And it's not just that people aren't reaching out to you, but you don't have all the mental tabs open in your brain where you're constantly panicked about thinking about, wondering if things are falling apart, wondering what's happening. Like being able to have that actual separation from your business when you need it, and also having the right people, the right systems, the right structure, the right things in place so that your business runs really smoothly and you do not have to play superhero and swoop in and fix everything all the time and be the one who has to make like all the critical decisions. And it sounds good. And people share all sorts of ways that you can do this. All you need is SOPs. Not true. You do need SOPs, but that is not all you need. All you need is this. All you need is this. And what I will tell you is it's an actual entire scaling ecosystem that you need. And it doesn't sound as sexy. People want that one little thing that they can do that solves the problem. The reality is it's an entire ecosystem. But I would say kind of the linchpin of that ecosystem, the thing that is the most important and that will actually be the thing that allows you to have freedom in your business is finding the right-hand person. And finding the right-hand person at the right level. That has made such a big difference for me. It has made such a big difference for my clients who I partner with. When you have that right-hand person, this is the person who understands your vision so fully that they embody it and they take on ownership of bringing it to life. This is the person who understands how all the facets of the business fit together. Yep. Doesn't mean they are doing all the things, but they understand what needs to get done to make that vision a reality, what the constraints are that are in place that they need to work within, whether it's budgetary or time or what those things are. And they understand how to orchestrate the right people, the right structure, the right resources, the right tools, technology, whatever it is to be able to achieve those results.
Yeah.
That to me is one of the most freeing things that you can do for yourself in your business. And it is also the thing that gives you a path if you ever want to sell your business or exit your business. Move into more of like a board seat on your business instead of the one who runs it day to day, right? There's a lot of optionality that gives you, but it just gives you a whole lot of peace of mind, a whole lot of freedom. Yep. And in order for them to be successful, they're going to need the right team under them. They're going to need the right systems. There's a lot that needs to be in place for them to be successful. So you can't just hire a person and it's magic. All of a sudden you're out of your business and poof, it's problem solved. But that is to me the linchpin of the scaling ecosystem and having that freedom in the business.
100%. And as you know, I thought I had that a couple of months ago. And when I thought I had it, it was freeing because I was on vacation and I think it was in Germany. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. And then it was like, oh, wait, no, not cool. So make sure it's the right person. I think that's a really big deal, but it's true because when I thought that I could let go, it was amazing. Like, I don't even think I checked my phone. until I had to check my phone, right? Because, well, you know what happened. But it was like, and even, my wife was like, you're not checking your phone every 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't have to. This is really nice. And, as we know now, I'm back in the search for that. But I'm in the search for it. And I think that's the cool thing is that, when I find that person, I already know the difference that it's going to make because I had it for a brief minute. And I'm going to say vet people really, really, really well, even though you think that you did, right? I don't know what other steps of vetting there is to take, but there's got to be something because there are some people that, man, you're going to think that they're the best thing since sliced bread until they're not. And yeah, so I'm glad you have
Absolutely.
that right hand now. I'm turning to you, of course, to help me find mine. But so, and there are just so many of us out here that are juggling it all. And it's not easy. It's just not having the right team in place is one thing. And I will say I'm very thankful for that because I have an amazing team. I just don't have the right hand. I think once I get the right hand, then I'll be able to do the other things. But just in general, I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, having that strong team underneath you also cohesive so that they are communicating and they are communicating with each other. And one of the things we talked about were the values, right? And I think one of the most important ones is that they can look on a larger scale that their actions or inactions have consequences, or they help the wheel turn. So if there's a cog in the wheel that is broken, it's going to affect the way that the wheel turns. If every cog is in place, right, and it's where they're supposed to be and everybody is on the same page, that's when it runs smoothly. Which I think is a beautiful thing. And just getting there.
Yeah, it's true. And there's a lot that people do with their team structure that inadvertently actually traps them in the day-to-day and makes it so their team doesn't take the ownership that they really want them to take. But what you're describing is what I call systems thinking. And I don't mean systems as in how you might think of systems like SOPs. I mean, it's being able to see kind of how all of the interrelated puzzle pieces fit together.
Yes.
And when someone is a natural systems thinker, yes, they may have a specific specialty or a focus within your business and what they do, but they also understand how what they do fits into what everyone else does and how if they don't get something done by Friday, that might throw off your whole launch, or that's going to throw off person B who is supposed to do this other thing, and it's going to have this kind of impact. So they're not focused on themselves. They're very much focused on the outcomes and the goals of the business, and they understand how they play a role in that, in how their actions, positive or negative, support or harm kind of the overall trajectory of where you're trying to go with the business. And I think that that is both one of the most important skills that you can interview for and make sure that you're hiring someone who has that ability to think in that way. But also you have to create the environment for them to be able to behave in that way.
Right.
If you're trying to hire systems thinkers and then you're giving them 150 point SOP checklist to follow and telling them they cannot use their brain, the only thing that they can do is check things off of a checklist, they're going to naturally lose that willingness, desire, or ability to be a systems thinker on your team.
Yep.
So I do believe that businesses need SOPs, but I think that people way overdo the SOPs and they end up hiring people who really can just follow a checklist as opposed to people who can solve problems and do real work and use the incredible brain that they have and the incredible skills that they've built up to be able to do that to make your business better.
Yeah. And I think that's 100% correct, because when you don't give people that freedom to think, right, it kind of stunts their growth. And as leaders, I think it's our responsibility to let them think. So Lizzie's my intern, right, and she's so freaking smart. And she did something, and she did something in AI. And I knew it was AI. So I went in and I didn't rip it apart, but I was like, okay, this isn't just something that you want to check off your list that it's done. I know you're busy. We're all busy, but you got to take your time with it. And you got to take your time, and you need to look at that. If this was your company, if this was your business, would you want that out there? No. Great. Then why the fuck would you put it out for this? And not in a mean way, like in a very nurturing, way. And she was like, you're right. And so now she knows, because I told her, it's like AI is fantastic, but it is an aid. It's not the tool. It's like a tool that you can use to get to the end that you want, but it is not the replacement. It's a help. And okay. I said, if you do a homework assignment and you do it through AI, don't think your professor isn't going to know that you threw that shit into ChatGPT and said, okay, what is blah, 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 blah. He's 100% going to know that. And I felt really good about that, because like you just saw the light bulb go off, and she was like, oh, okay. So I believe in exactly what you said, giving people, you don't want to give them a checklist. Let them think. That's what they're there for, right? And maybe if they think, they can come up with a different idea for your stuff, where it's like, hey, what if we tried it this way? Oh, hell, that's a really good idea. What if we did? So I think that's super important too, is, when we empower the people that are on our team. Because I don't like saying working for us, but they're on our team. So I already know the answer to this, but what is your differentiator? There are a lot of ops people out there, and people who talk about systems and all this stuff. What is your differentiator?
So it's really interesting. I find that because I work with a lot of people in operations, I train, mentor, and certify people in operations. So I spend a lot of my days with people in operations, and also a lot of time with visionaries who I love working with. But a lot of operations people do what they do for the love of operations. They love systems. They love planning. They love operations. And so they do what they do because of that love. I love results. That is what I think my differentiator is to me, operations are a means to achieve the vision that you have in your business. They are the way that you get to your business in your business vision in the most simple and streamlined way possible. I don't do operations for the love of operations. I do love what I do very much, but I'm not driven by the love of operations. I'm driven by the love of achieving transformation and making a vision a reality. And I think that's the difference, because I look at things through a totally different lens. I'm not trying to help people put a system in place because that's just what you do. You just have to put that system in place. Like, I am trying to figure out what is the way for you specifically based on your vision and your goals and how you like to work and where you want to take the business and what you want to be doing in 10 years. Like, do you want to still be in the business? Or are you trying to sell the business? Like, based on all of those things, I am figuring out the right mix of people and systems and structure and things to achieve that for you. So operations to me is not what I do. Operations is the vehicle. Operations is how I help people achieve the brilliant, amazing impact and vision that they have. And so that, I think, is the differentiator. Is on the surface, if you looked at a checklist of things that I do compared to somebody else, the checklist might look similar, but the way in which I go about it is night and day different. And I think that that's what why most people who start working with me don't leave. Like, our friend Jen has been with me since 2019. She literally will probably be with me till the end of time.
I want to be with you forever. So,
But it's, to me, right, I see my role as I always challenge people to think bigger, to realize what's actually possible, to break through the constraints that people put on themselves, and then to practically make it happen. It's like, great, now we've got this big, amazing thing that we want to do. How do we get there, and what's the actual first step? Let's make it tangible and let's figure out how to get there. But I always still hold that vision, and every piece of advice or guidance or something I give someone is with that vision in mind. So I think that itself is the differentiator, but also I blend strategy with operations. I don't believe that operations on their own are the valuable piece of things in the business. I think the operations are the how. The vision is the why. The strategy is kind of the bridge between the two. And so I think if you have operations without the strategy component, you are likely to do ops for ops sake, and you might build the thing that never takes you to the vision. And so to me, strategy and operations must be combined. That's why my business is Strategic Ops Institute. I want to see all operations people, all right hands, anyone in an operational role, not see themselves as an operator, but understand that their role, in order to be effective, they need to also understand and take ownership of working with the founder on their strategy, so that the operations and the team and the things they're putting in place ultimately lead to the vision and aren't just ops for ops sake.
Wow. And I'm here to attest that it's all true. So, it's the truth. It's like, I just look at things differently, and my business looks completely different than it did, when we started. And I think my trajectory is even going to be a little bit different at this point. So I will tell you, if you are looking to simplify to scale, if you are looking for the strategic ops, I can't talk. Krista is the woman. I'm going to leave her the best review when we're done, because when you work with somebody that makes you think differently, that's huge. And I'm a stubborn little bugger, right? For me, it's like, no, I know what I'm doing. I it's working. Whatever I'm doing is working. And it's not that it's not working. What Krista does is enhances what you do and improves upon what you do, because those systems, and I'm telling you, the first time you see your team on paper, it's an eye opener. Because then you realize all of the pieces of the puzzle. For me, for our, Gas Stove Creative is a marketing agency, and I work with all contractors because I love the puzzle. I love being able to put, we have this project, great, I'm going to put this person on this project, and then I could move all the, pieces. And that's what it's kind of like. It's like looking at the team and going, oh crap, so I have this here. I never even knew I had that, but I do have that. And it's very eye-opening. So, I love it. And I'm, if I have my choice, never going to leave you. So that's, you're stuck with me.
That sounds perfect to me.
So, first off, where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are a visionary and you're listening, you want to go to leanoutmethod.com. That's where I partner with visionary founders and their teams to simplify and scale their business. And if you are the right hand to a founder, an ops leader, or someone who would like to be a strategy and ops leader, go to Strategic Ops Institute. That's where I have training, mentorship, and certification programs for your right hand at that pure strategy level. So someone at more of a COO type level, I call it a CSOO, a Chief Strategy and Operating Officer, and also at more of a strategic execution level. So somebody who would be what I call an entrepreneurial project manager, that person who can take your vision and practically map out everything that needs to be done and then manage the team that you have to actually get it done.
That sounds like heaven. And what words of wisdom do you want to leave my audience with? our
All
audience
right.
today?
So I'll say a couple different things. There are a lot of things out there that you are told you have to do. And the reality is, if you don't love it, if you are not feeling aligned with it, you will not want to sustain it. And to me, I am all about sustainable and scalable success, right? What you choose to do over time, I think that what we want in business are choices. And when your business is scalable and when your business is sustainable, you have the choice to be able to do what you want. But you have to have a business that is in alignment. To me, that is so incredibly important. So I think the most important thing that somebody can do, I know this year has been really challenging for so many businesses. Things that were working stopped working. People are losing clients a lot, or they're not quite sure why people aren't converting in the way that they used to. It's been kind of a wild roller coaster of a year for a lot of people. And the only silver lining that I see in that is sometimes when things stop working, you can kind of give yourself permission to throw it all out and start over if you want to. And I don't mean that literally. You're not literally going to throw things out and start over, but mentally, if you say, you know what, I've got all this skill, I've got an incredible audience, I've got incredible clients. If I were to build what I really wanted right now from scratch, what would that look like? And sometimes you might surprise yourself with what you come out with. And so I think it's a really great mental exercise to go to. But to me, every single thing you do in your business, everything needs to align with your vision. And there is no better time than to update your vision than like right this second, because you always want to know where you're going so you can make decisions in accordance with that. But especially if this year has been super challenging for you, it is possible that your vision has changed. When our routines get disrupted, we sometimes can look at things from a completely different lens and say, maybe I don't want to go back to doing that thing. I never really liked it anyway. It just brought in good money. What I really want to do is this. And once you get clear on what you want, there is absolutely a way to get there. I have never met a business idea or a business vision that was not possible. And that is over 30 years of doing this. Whatever your vision is, it's possible. You just have to get clear on what it is. And you have to be willing to say no to all the things that aren't that, so that you can stay in alignment and you can move things forward in a really smart, really simple, and really strategic way.
And how would somebody, because I'm sure there are people out there listening because they're going through it, right? I mean, we have a couple of people on our call that are going through it. How do they pare that down? I guess that's, how do they look at the thing and go, okay, this needs to change? How do they get that? Because that's a hard thing to do.
It's so hard for people to do. And to me, this is so simple for me to do in other people's businesses. And I have to have help. I have to have people help me with it in my own business, because even though it's my superpower for other people, I think it's usually the thing that we help other people with, or the thing other people need to help us with sometimes. Right. So I have my go-to people as I've been going through this process as well, because there's only so far I could get in my own head. But that being said, what I think you want to look at, when I look at vision, I look at 3 different lenses. And I think it's helpful to look at these 3 facets. Start with the personal. What do you want to do? What do you want your role to be? How much do you want to work? Like, think about you and what that looks like, and then compare that to where you are today. I'm going to guess it's probably pretty different from what your day-to-day looks like today, because it is for most of the people I talk to. But then I want you to look at your clients. What are the clients that you want to work with? Who do you want to work with? What types of problems do you want to help them solve? What are their characteristics? Like, think about the client you really want to work with, and then compare that with who you have today. And often there is a very big disconnect, right? Especially if, like we were talking about earlier, maybe you're still in that place where you tend to charge kind of lower rates, or you tend to do more hour-based services, and you're attracting a certain type of client that nickels and dimes and all those things. And you're like, God, I'd really love this other type of client over here, right? And so get clear on what that looks like. And then the third facet is the business itself. What is the impact you want to make? What is the structure that works for you, right? Are you a value or a volume person? Like, do you want to impact and serve thousands of people in what you do, and maybe have a lower ticket item that serves many? Or do you just want to work with a handful of really amazing people and do really deep transformational work with them? That is more my model. right? And so think about what you want again, and then compare that with what you have today. But first, you have to give yourself permission to forget what you have and think about what you want. And then once you get that and you do the comparison, you can start to see the gaps between where you want to go and what you have. And it doesn't mean you throw out what you have today. You've got to build a bridge from where you are today to where you want to be. And it might take you a while to get there, but recognizing where you want to go will help. So once you have that understanding, once you can see the difference between where you want to go and where you are today, you do have to look at how you can get there. And sometimes this is something that you can do yourself. Other times you do need help from someone. And I would say get a business bestie. Maybe you're part of a mastermind. Certainly find that person that you can reach out to that will help you to look at your business model, look at how you could make shifts in how you have things packaged or priced, or how you're positioning things if you're struggling to get conversions, right? You need that person who can really help you to do that assessment, but they can't effectively help you if you don't know where you want to go and how what you have today is different from where you want to be. Once you have that, you can have that person that can help you, and you probably know who that person is, right? If not, there are many people like me who do this that you can reach out to, but you probably already have someone in your circle that you trust that you can say, hey, can we hop on the phone for a couple hours? I'd really love your support with this. And just start to get that conversation and get that kind of the wheels turning.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so important to have that. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know how busy you are. So, I really, really appreciate you, taking your time out. And we know where people can reach you. And I can't believe we're here already, but the last question that I ask all my guests is, what lights your fire?
Honestly, this is probably going to sound kind of cheesy, but nothing makes me happier in this world than helping somebody else achieve their goals. I have been that way since I was a little kid. That is what makes me happy, is seeing someone else get to do something that they want to do so badly and that they might not have been able to do otherwise. So that is by far it. And then if we want to take a fun spin on that, Bret Michaels lights my fire, and I will go to every Bret Michaels concert until the end of time. So aside from helping people, it's Bret Michaels. It's always Bret Michaels.
That so much. Well, thank you. Hang on one second. I'm going to say goodbye, and then I'll come right back. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out for an hour plus, as you always do. I appreciate it so much. Contact Krista if you are even thinking about, scaling. She's the person, because holy shit, let me tell you, I was like, I knew when I was ready, and when I was ready, she was right there, and we're rocking and rolling right now. We're coming up to the end, I think, of our stuff, but that's going to be a separate conversation. So go to all the places where you could find her: Lean Out Method, Strategic Ops, all of it, and she will help you kick ass. Did you like this episode? Go like, share, subscribe, review. Keep giving reviews. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate you watching and downloading and telling everybody how awesome this is. It means the world to me. So until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.